notable arbitration exchange day deals. Juan Soto, $23 million. Josh Hader, $14.1 million. And Rhys Hoskins, the Philadelphia Phillies, at $12 million. Guys cashing in with teams that made big splashes in this offseason, as you bring in our friend Tom Verducci. So, Tom, it's interesting. It's one of those days that they can oftentimes goes under the radar for non-baseball fans. But if you know the industry, you know these are important days to lock these guys up. What do you make of the numbers that were exchanged and these big names signing up?
Yeah, let's start with the biggest, Juan Soto. Of course, he has one more bite of the arbitration apple next year. So this year at $23 million, he's actually trending above the record pace that Mookie Betts set with the Red Sox when he was going through his penultimate and then ultimate arbitration seasons. So Juan Soto next year, one more bite at the apple. You know, Betts had $27 million, so it seems at this point, with Soto getting 23 this year, he will get beyond that number and actually challenge the record that was just set by Shohei Ohtani at $30 million in his last arbitration-eligible season. Now, a lot of times we see guys sign extensions going into that last arbitration year. That might be hard for the Padres to lock up Soto because he is looking forward to being a free agent at 26, and they already have a lot of long-term commitments on the payroll.
It's funny. You mentioned those Soto numbers. I remember growing up, 80s baseball, arbitration awards, $1.12 million. And that was cause for big celebration and mayhem. But these guys obviously deserve it. We move on to the automated ball strike system. And it's great to see baseball being so progressive. When it comes to the AAA ballparks, here's what we're going to see. Half the Class AAA games played with all calls determined by an electronic strike zone. The other half using the ABS challenge system, similar to that used in professional tennis, which I love. Each team allowed 3 challenges per game, with teams retaining challenges when they are proved correct. And again, Tom, I just love the fact that baseball is being forward-thinking, being progressive. Let's give it a trial basis and then see what happens come Major League Baseball time. What do you make of all of it?
Yeah, go back to the general managers meetings back in November. That's when clubs were told this was coming. Now, it still has to go through a formal vetting process and approval process by the owners. That will come on February 8th at the next owners meeting. And as you mentioned, Ed, there are 2 systems in play here. One is the full-on robo system where it's calling every pitch. And the other is the so-called transitional system where it's a challenge system, where only players on the field, pitcher, catcher, and hitter, can say, wait a second, the umpire got the call right. Let's go to the challenge system like we see the Hawkeye system in professional tennis. What's interesting, Adnan, this was used in the minor leagues last year. There were 5 teams that used it in AAA. When players challenged the call of the umpire, the players were wrong 55% of the time. It reminds you that the umpires do a pretty darn good job. Now, the question now is, when might we see it in the major leagues? Now, it might be thinking a little too optimistically that it's ready as far as the 2024 season in the big leagues. It still needs testing. There's still some learning that goes on with these systems. But I think realistically, it's not really outlandish to think maybe in 2025 we have some version of the ABS system. I think most baseball people look at the challenge system as the more likely scenario. It's not as big of a leap to get there as opposed to calling every pitch through the robo-ump. But we'll learn a lot more going through minor league testing at the AAA level.
Yeah, I was going to say, as someone who's covered baseball their whole lives, I would feel nostalgic about the loss of the umpire completely. So I think you're right. That transitional phase would make sense. I just can't imagine a player upset by a call saying, where's that Hawkeye system? Who can I yell at over here? But I think of the 2 systems, that one to me makes more sense. You?
I agree with that. And I think the key here is that it works very quickly. The challenge has to be made instantly, and the result is shown instantly on a Jumbotron, and you move on very quickly. And I think the idea here is if there's a big call, just like on the bases, you don't want it to influence or decide the outcome of a game. So this is a situation where you had 3 challenges. If you're correct and the umpire got the call right, you retain that challenge. So it's not as if the game is being stopped and started continuously throughout. But again, like the calls we have now on the bases, we don't want the big calls to decide a game.
Yeah, we're looking for accuracy and efficiency, which is exactly what Tom Verducci always gives us as well. Thanks, Tom. Talk soon.
Thank you.
So just to reiterate, here's how it looks. The automatic balls and strike system. The half of Class AAA games we've played with all calls determined by an electronic strike zone, other half using the ABS challenge system, similar to that used in tennis. Each team allowed 3 challenges per game, with teams retaining challenges when they are proved correct. So the three of us, when you're talking abs, we must begin with Carlos Pena.
That's right.
Who can still flaunt a six-pack.
That's what I thought. I was like, wait, we're talking about abs again?
Exactly.
Like, I gotta go do my crunch.
Well, the big reveal at the end of the show. Keep the audience.
There you go.
But what do you think, Lopes? As a hitter, before I get to the pitcher and Ronnie, as a hitter, what do you think of both the systems? One, purely robot umps. Second one, you got a challenge system. Which one do you like?
Yeah, we were here discussing a little bit about which one is easier to implement right away, and I think the challenge system would probably be the best way to go. The question begins, well, this is the question. How about if I say, hey, you need to check that one. I get it right. How many times, every single time you get it right, you keep it?
Yes.
So, I mean, you can literally, if the umpire's making mistakes, you can go 15 times in a row, and I don't think that's going to be so efficient.
Yeah.
That's true.
You know, so I'm a little bit concerned about that. And another thing is, like, looking at the technology, I want to make sure that, you know, we know what the strike zone is, because, you know, that we understand that not only do we have to look at it in this way, right, two dimensions, we have to also look at the third dimension, which is the length of the strike zone. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But I think implementation needs to be the, hey, I'm going to review that call right there. That's the system that works best initially.
Yeah, I think the challenges are something you're going to have. I think having the umpire behind there still in the transitional stage is an important thing because it's part of the game. Listen, they've been working on this a long time. Yeah. It's going to be in the AAA stadiums, so they are close. And this is going to be implemented probably within the next 3 seasons, I guess, 3 to 5 seasons. So it's going to change the game. Certainly, I think it's going to affect the hitters more than the pitchers because you work your entire life in the cage. What's a strike? What's a ball? And there are going to be times that a ball is going to that crosses the strike zone, 3D-wise especially, that is a strike that traditionally with a home plate umpire, and I'm talking about slow curveball in the dirt, never would be called a strike. Right. Some of those will be called a strike, and the hitters won't be happy about it. But I think in the end, we're trying to get all of these things right in every sport that we play. Yeah. But I do miss the authoritative nature of good umpires and what they do right. One of the umpires, in fact, had a 100-point game, right? A perfect score. That was amazing. In the World Series. So there's still a lot of great umpires out there, and just hopefully they'll transition this for all the players.
Because the idea is this, guys. I mean, let's make it clear. It's not about replacing umpires. That's right. It's about taking the pressure off of umpires. That is the right approach. And I think, like you said, a lot of umpires I respect, you know, throughout the years, you know, made great friends. And also, you know, had some heated battles. But the idea is this. You respect them, right, Ron? Yeah. So it's not about replacing them. It's about helping them out and supporting them.
Pat Hoberg was the one, by the way, had that perfect game, which was amazing. That's You're right about that. It'll be, I mean, I'll get nostalgic if ever there's a time with no umpires, because, like, who is Lou Piniella supposed to kick through that, right? Like,
come on.
You can't yell at the ab system. Come on, you just dumb computer, let's go.
You can try to fight Skynet, you know what I'm saying? Didn't you watch Terminator?
There you go.
Big Brother is watching. I did not mess with T3000. All right, still to come. Other notable arbitration exchange deals look like this. Brandon Woodruff, $10.8 million. Lucas Giolito, $10.4 with the Sox. Jordan Montgomery gets the full Monty, $10 million of the St. Louis Cardinals, as he was so effective moving over from the New York Yankees. And Walker Buehler, just a little north of $8 million reported deals here for this quartet of pitchers. Still to come, Garrett Cole to the Astros, a blockbuster deal that happened on this date in 2018. After the break, we revisit that trade and look at some other mega deals. Don't go anywhere.